Om Tat Sat. This is Swami Nikhilananda, and welcome to Spirituality and Vedanta Philosophy. My humble prostrations to my worshipful Param Guru, Shri Swami Shivananji Maharaj of Divine Life Society, Rishikesh, India, and to my worshipful Guru, Shri Swami Jyotirmananji Maharaj of Yoga Research Foundation, Miami, Florida, and of course to all of you divine souls who are listening to this video. In my regular videos, I explain deep insights about spirituality and Vedanta philosophy. If you like these videos, please share with others, as sharing spiritual knowledge is an act of jnana yagya or selfless service. In today's video, we will discuss the three spiritual obstacles or knots to our spiritual progress. So it's a very important video because we need to understand what is the root cause of our lack of spiritual growth. And let me start off with a question to you first. When you are watering your lawn and you see the water is not coming out on the other side, other end of the hose, but you check your tap and the tap is showing that the water is flowing, immediately you know that there's an obstruction, right? That's why the water is not feeding the lawn. And so you try to figure out where is it crinkled or where is the knot. And once you're able to uncrinkle that knot and find out what was obstructing it, now the water problem is solved, the water starts to flow, and your lawn is being watered properly. The same thing happens to our spiritual progress. The problem is, though, that we don't have just one knot. We have three knots that are binding us to the physical body, the world, and keeping us attached to this worldly process. Let me explain each one, and then we'll talk more about them. First one is mala. Mala means impurities. The second one is vikshepa. Vikshepa are distractions. And the third one is avarna. Avarna is a veil of ignorance. So these are the three knots. And as we experience spiritual progress, we have to make sure that each of these knots are gradually untied. It will take a lot of patience, a lot of time. And this is what we call as spiritual sadhana, identifying what are our areas of concern and how to remove them and also progress. So the mala is called the impurities. Over many lifetimes we have accumulated so many of these impurities. Think of us sweeping the dust under the rug. We haven't taken it out of the house, so it's still there. It's not in visible form, but it's under the rug. So when we start cleansing ourselves, we find all this dust that needs to be cleaned also. So when we start working on our spiritual progress, that's the issue we find. And there are these impurities, 6 of them: kama, krodh, lobh, moh, mad, matsarya. Let me explain each one very briefly. Kama is desire. We all know desires are typically endless, so we have to start putting a ceiling on them and analyzing them better. Do we really need those things, for example? What is this desire? Where is it coming from? Krodh, anger. Do we get agitated over little things? Lobh, greed. How many houses do we want? How many cars? I mean, at what point do we say, I'm not being pulled by these possessions anymore? That is reducing greed, basically. And the fourth one is moha, which is attachment. We get attached to our family, our possessions, our things, our whatever else you call yours is basically a binding phenomenon if you're attached to it. And mad is pride, which means I think generally the blockage there comes from the ego, and it thinks we have achieved a lot, so there is a subtle pride that we start to develop, and that needs to be also curtailed in the spiritual path. And finally, matsarya, which is jealousy. So when we see somebody else progressing much better than us, they have much better name, fame, and things that we are aspiring for, but we don't have. Sometimes there's a jealousy aspect that creeps in, so that also needs to be cleansed. So these are the 6 things we need to work on and slowly start purifying them. So when you do your sadhana, when you do your meditation and prayers, you're slowly working on these things in a very consistent way. And this knot of the mala is in your Manipur chakra, which is your navel center. Those of you who do Kundalini will know this. It's in the Manipur chakra or in your navel center. and this is called the karma granthi. So we have to, granthi means a knot and karma means action. So this is the first one that we have to untie, and once you untie it, you will see the flow of the energy starts to get better. And now the second blockage you face is in your heart. It's called kama granthi, and this is called vikshepa, the obstacle, second obstacle, right? So this Vikshepa, what this does is, this is, think of the distraction, the reflection of the sun. If sun is one up top, but then you can see the rays and the reflection of the sun, for example, in a jar of water or in a lake. So when the water shakes, the reflection of the sun also shakes, and therefore you cannot catch the full grandeur of the reflection. Well, the same thing happens to us due to this obstruction of our kama granthi. This is in our heart chakra, which is called anahata chakra in the heart. And but once we are totally still and calm, the full grandeur of the reflection is clearly visible. But till that time, anytime we shake, we get distracted, and therefore the obstruction is there unless we get totally stabilized again. And then finally the third granthi, which is called Avarna. Avarna means the veil of ignorance. And think of this as a curtain with the show, with the stage behind. So there's always a curtain before the show starts, right? But unless the curtain is removed, you will not be able to see what's happening in the show. And that in essence is the Avarana aspect. So the same thing happens, and that aspect is in our Agya chakra from Kundalini perspective, and between your eyebrows where you see Shiva's third eye also, transcendental. That's where the third granthi is. It's called avidya granthi, which means lack of knowledge, lack of spiritual knowledge. We know a lot of worldly things, but not necessarily the things that are related to our spiritual or third eye. So once we start focusing on that, we remove the veil, then it becomes very clear, and that's the third blockage. Now once that blockage is removed, you have spirituality flowing very well within you. Now mind you, it's very easy to say this on a video, but to practice this in your life and to remove each of these impediments can take a long time sometimes. But that's okay, because you are on the right path. You are on the path of satsanga, and this is where your spiritual progress and your self-effort comes in. So once that happens, you experience unbounded bliss, and that is the reward we get. And eventually when we progress more and more, eventually the reflection of the self, which is in your unconscious, floods you with light, and you then are always in a perpetual state of peace, no matter where you are, no matter whether you're facing adversity or prosperity. So I hope this video made sense to you. It's a very important video, so please listen to it again. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I will be happy to guide you with whatever knowledge I have. And as I suggested, please share with others also, because there are other aspirants who may not know these deep mysteries of our Sanatan Dharma and our Vedanta philosophy. So more till next time, divine blessings to you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.